Welcome, everyone, to Magnet Culture's Workforce Webinar. We are so very happy that you're spending your Friday on our longest short week ever, right? with the earlier this week. I am Jess Ray, and today's webinar is titled "What Happened to Problem Solving: How to Rebuild Staff Critical Thinking and Resourcefulness." If this is your very first webinar, we welcome you. And if it's not, we're glad you're here again. Magnet Culture has been elevating leaders by shifting mindsets and helping them action plan so that we can help them create places where people want to work. We really love and have a passion for helping organizations of all shapes and sizes, all budgets, to reduce turnover and get their heads above water again. So today, you'll hear a conversation between two of our retention strategists, Alayna Thomas, who you all may very well know from our past webinars, and the famous Carrie Murphy, who, if you don't know, you need to know. So, Carrie is one of our incredible keynote speakers and trainers. She's been dedicating her time to helping organizations create that workplace where people can thrive with 20 years of leadership experience, including the oversight of teams as large as 300. She recognizes the rising costs of conflict and skills gaps for organizations, which is why she helps partner with them. She travels coast to coast to train and support our clients. We're so glad that you've joined us today, Carrie. For all of those on the webinar today, remember that our webinars are recorded and they are available on our website. I will put that link in the chat here shortly. Today's conversation is building on a popular webinar about the decline of critical thinking in the workplace. So, little note, you can check out this year's past webinars and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be notified when those new webinars are available. Today's webinar will be available in just a couple days. As questions come to mind, there is a Q&A box at the very bottom of your screen. Click on that and enter in any question at any time, and we will get to as many of those as possible. Make sure you stay for the entire session. We've got a really special deal for the month of September only that I'll be sharing with you. So, Alayna, over to you.
Yay! Thanks, Jess. We'll see you back in a little bit.
Sounds great.
As Jess mentioned, y'all, we are building on that decline in critical thinking webinar. I want to say it was at the end of 2023 or 2024. It's been a long time. So to refresh your memory, if you saw that, or to catch you up on what has shifted, what you're probably feeling right now in the workplace. So let's go to Gen X. We don't get to talk about you guys enough. It's always what I say. Our Gen Xers are like the middle child. Like you're always there and we don't talk enough about you. So you get the spotlight for a moment. Gen Xers, many of you grew up as latchkey kids. And we saw this especially as more boomer women were joining the workforce, even as their kids were getting older. And so Gen Xers as latchkey kids, y'all were told, so I'm told, because I'm not a latchkey kid, to get yourself home after school and do your homework and feed yourself, don't burn the house down, all of that. And so Gen Xers learned from a really young age to figure it out independently. Oh, and to follow the rules, because you did not want to see the wrath of what would happen if you didn't follow the rules. And the next generation millennials didn't necessarily hear that same message. Millennials grew during the 80s as millennials were growing up, especially our oldest millennials. We started to see a shift in the US to 24/7 news networks, shows like America's Most Wanted, and overall, this kind of parenting shift of stranger danger. And of course, not everyone subscribed to that exact thinking, but this is the overall trend or shift. And so millennials grew up with less of that latchkey kid independent problem solving and more of this collaborative problem solving, because in the rise of stranger danger, we also saw more after school care programs, daycares, things like that. So Gen X, y'all learn to figure it out by yourselves. Millennials and then subsequently Gen Z are more collaborative in problem solving. So our last webinar we called the decline in critical thinking, because at that time, that's really how we saw this was there's been a decline in our workforce of critical thinking, but that's a little bit negative, maybe a lot negative. It's not quite fair. And especially for me as a Gen Zer, I'm like, hey, second, let's give this a chance because it's not necessarily a decline in critical thinking, but actually a shift in problem solving, critical thinking, and resourcefulness. So, we're really going to shift the conversation today to talk about that shift in our language. Now, it's just new types of resourcefulness. So, the pain point here is that those who are managers grew up, many were raised differently with a different mindset of how you solve problems. And now you're trying to turn around and lead those who solve problems differently. And that is quite frustrating. As it's frustrating on both ends, right? For both and when we live on those extremes. So enough of me as a Gen Zer talking about Gen X because that's not fair. Carrie, you are a Gen X manager. Jess told us about all of your leadership experience. Am I on the right track here? Have you seen this shift in resourcefulness?
Yes, you're absolutely on the right track. For one, I feel very seen. All the things that you were talking about with Gen X, I'm like, yes, I identify with that. That is absolutely how we were raised and what we were taught and what was expected of us. And then, yes, having been in the workforce long enough, I've noticed that shift also. The people coming into the workforce just think differently. And it's because they were raised differently and they bring amazing skills, but it's different than what I am used to. And, we all sit in that space of saying, well, how come you don't think like me?
Mm.
Well, nobody does. Thank goodness we don't all think alike. We need that difference. And I have been there. I have run teams of varying sizes and have definitely felt that frustration of people bringing questions to me. And I'm just thinking to myself, have you even tried anything yet? Also, perhaps thinking to myself, well, you know, I feel like you know that answer, but you're afraid to move forward
Mm.
because you don't want to get it wrong. Or maybe you've had to deal with a lot of judgment or negative repercussions because you made a decision previously, it didn't go right, and now you feel the weight of that. Those are two of the frustrations that I know I have experienced. I would just say if you guys out there have some frustrations that you would like to voice, you can drop that in the chat as well if you're experiencing some different frustrations other than that. So we know that something is not quite right. We know something went wrong or is very, very different. And we're trying to wrap our minds around what is that difference. And so often we just wind up finger pointing. We just wind up saying, well, it's them, they are so different, or we just don't really understand. And so rather than just the finger pointing, we need to really come up with some solutions and also own our part of it. I'm always asking myself, well, how much of this do I own? Is it that I haven't created a space where they can problem solve because I'm always jumping in, just doing it myself? We have probably all said to ourselves, or maybe it's just me, that, hey, I'll just do it myself. It's faster, it's easier. We don't have a lot of time to mess around. Let's just get this done. But then I also wind up frustrated because nobody knows how to do it themselves. And then I say, well, how come all of this is on my plate? So,
So what you're saying is that you go, okay, I'll just do it myself. I'll just do it myself. And then you're like, why can't anyone do their jobs? And
yes,
you're realizing maybe that, oh, maybe I've actually played a part in my team not being able to do it
yes, I have
themselves.
contributed to this a little
Yeah.
bit. So asking myself, how have I contributed
Mm.
to this problem? Because it's either easier to handle myself, or maybe I just feel like there's not enough time to get this training in. We all know we're up against the clock. Time is our worst enemy. But if we invest in the training, if we invest in the time that it takes to show
Mm.
someone how to do it, we actually reclaim that time later. So we need to think of it as an investment of our time that we are going to get back tenfold in the
Mm.
future.
Yes. Oh, that's great. And the thing with time, y'all know that I wear that HR hat a lot. So people have heard me talk about this, but a lot of times, whenever I was doing the hiring, I would hear from managers, like if someone wasn't quite working out, they couldn't get up to speed as fast as the manager wanted. They were like, Alayna, HR, I need you to hire better people. Like, I can't, this isn't what I was expecting. But also, those managers were in with me on the interviews, and collectively, we really thought this person was going to be able to hit the ground running. And I think our issue is that we can't think like that, because today's workforce does not do their best when in response to that kind of pressure of like, because y'all, we're desperate. We needed you like 5 weeks, 5 months ago. um, but desperate isn't really a good look on any of us. Okay. So we need to find a way to move from that desperation for them to what Carrie said, that investment in time. So if I can, I always like to bring my Gen Z perspective here. So picturing me in my first job, I was doing a lot of reflecting on this. In one of my first roles, I was working on a very important project, a VIP, if you will, for my company. And a lot of the, not a lot of them, all of the big people in the company, their eyes were on this project. And Carrie, you said it earlier, like the teammates that come to you with those questions. I was terrified of messing up. I didn't want to miss any expectations. I didn't want to get in trouble with my team or like the big people, the big stakeholders. And some people might say, oh, you shouldn't, they're not intimidating. Like, don't worry about them. But I was intimidated, right? I'm a newbie here. And so I just found that it was easier to ask for help, because I had one moment where I tried it myself and I got an immediate, unexpected phone call from the person that I was working on it with, who I would say maybe chewed me out a bit and said, why did you do it this way? And this was very early in the project. And so I said, I don't want to mess up again. I think I know what I want to do, but I'm just going to ask just to be safe. And now I'm on the flip side where I'm hearing the perception of that is that my manager is like, please stop coming to me with questions. Like, you can figure it out yourself. Because I just knew my boss was going to be better at handling the sticky situation because she had 30 plus years of work experience, right? And I was worried I was going to inevitably fail. So that was my thought process. Now I see the other side, that maybe that's not the most helpful. So what do I wish that my manager had done differently to help me as a new employee? And any manager that I have, this is like very important. I really, like, I am not the only smart, capable employee who just gets stuck when they hit a snag. And employees on your team are likely facing similar things and those fears. My boss was incredible. She was like, you've got this. I believe in you. I've got your back if you fail. But the fact that I even might fail was what kept me from doing the rest. And so, no, I didn't hit the ground running. And a lot of you are used to that sink or swim approach that used to work for so long, of like, we need you, do the work, and the, cream will rise to the top or whatever. But it doesn't work, because that assumes that new hires have that same skill set and confidence to solve problems by themselves. Because that's what you're saying, right? Go solve this by yourself. And if you've been around magnet culture world for a long time, we talk about how new hires are our flight risk. And y'all just spent so much time and energy and money getting those people here. If we know that that sink or swim approach doesn't work, we need to try something different. We need to build that problem solving muscle so that we can get that investment in time back later, like Carrie said. So just a bit of us sharing our Gen X and Gen Z perspectives. But Carrie, you've been a leader. You have been a leader for a long time. How do you tell your people, how do you help your team build their problem solving muscle?
Yeah, there's lots of different approaches to it. And I can say I've done it wrong many times. And I think that helps us all learn how to do it right. So I also want to point out that sometimes managers, we're afraid also of getting it wrong. And we can all be human. I think the key there is, if we feel like we've gotten it wrong, I would want to go and apologize for that and just own it. Again, going, how much of this do I own, right? I think that's an important aspect of it. But one of the things that I have found to be mission critical is this micromanaging. It's one of those words where it kind of like makes your gut clench. And
Yeah, you said it and I was like,
yeah, Yeah, and so I try to take steps to make sure that first I know my people so that I know what amount of detail each of them needs to
Mm,
succeed. Some people, they don't need a ton of detail. They need to know the direction, the vision, what we are trying to accomplish. They need some guardrails. And then I need to turn them loose to do what they need to do while still checking in with them. But
mm,
other people, they would feel like you have not set me up to succeed. I don't have enough details. I don't have enough information. So if I know that I'm working with someone who is very high detailed, I'm going to make sure that I'm giving them as
mm,
much information ahead of time so that they feel confident. Because in fact, I'm not a super high detail person myself. I just kind of want to know where we're going and then wind me up and let me go.
yeah.
But, I have had the privilege of working with an administrative assistant that by the time she finally got all of the information she wanted, I felt like, my goodness, I must be overloading her or she must feel micromanaged. But she finally felt like she had enough details to go and do the thing I was asking her to do. So the first part is really know our people so that we know how much we're giving them at the get go. And then making sure that I'm super clear at the beginning, making sure that my expectations are clear, that our vision is clear, what we're trying to accomplish is clear at the beginning. Because I think micromanaging comes in after the fact. Once we've set someone on their trajectory and given them what they're supposed to accomplish, what they're working on, and then we're having to come back in and check in on them and make corrections because I didn't give them the information at the
Mm,
get-go. So then they
mm,
feel micromanaged rather than, hey, I'm just checking on you. How can I help? Do you have any roadblocks? It turns into me making the decisions for them and giving them direction in that moment
mm.
because I didn't give them the direction at the beginning.
So it's knowing your people, that some people you might as a leader be stretched to actually lead in a way that feels not quite like how you want to. So like with your administrative assistant, you have learned that you have to give so many more details for her to feel confident to go tackle this herself. And
Yeah.
if you don't do that, then what's going to happen is she is going to keep coming back for questions. And so you're going to answer the questions and give the details one way or another. You're saying you figured out that the secret here is to just do it at the beginning.
Do it at the
Uh,
beginning. Make sure I'm giving them as much as I possibly can. And if things change, then yes, giving them that information along the way as well.
yeah,
But making sure I have set them up for success in
yeah.
that way.
And something too, if someone's like, especially our work environments are ever changing. So you might not have all the details at the beginning. Something that I've loved, some language that I've loved from leaders is, hey, here's what I do know. Being able to say, if someone's high detail, saying, I can imagine this isn't as much detail as you would like. This is as much detail as I have. But what I'll do is I will give you any more details as I get them. It's not perfect up front, but that is how we adapt in our environment, right? Because we're not saying every single employee we're going to be able to 100% meet what they need, but we're trying to build this mutually beneficial relationship. Because if you can set them up for success as a leader, then guess what? They actually have a higher chance of succeeding, which makes your job easier. So that's again what we keep coming back to.
Yes. And part of the way that I express, hey, here's what I expect, I have a little formula that I like to pass along
Ooh,
to
okay.
them. So it's a very clear formula. Anybody can adopt it. And it clearly states what I expect. And one of the things that I like to enable them to do is say, hey, in this situation, when you're trying to make a decision, some critical thinking,
Mm,
I want you to just observe and take in three details about what's going on. So it's kind of a 3, 2, 1 approach.
okay.
So make three observations about what is going on, take in that information, and then come up with two solutions forward. We could do this, we
Mm,
could do this, and then make that one decision and act on it. So it might seem super simplistic, but in the same way that we would teach someone in school how to solve an algebraic problem with
mm,
a formula, that's how we know how to do math. Let's give some folks a very simple formula that we can coach at the beginning and say, hey, here's how I would love for you to approach this scenario. If you're not sure what to do, 3, 2, 1. So I can coach them at the beginning. And then afterwards, even, we can have a debrief and I can ask them, well, what were your 3 observations? What 2 solutions did you come up with? And what was that one direction that you took? And it really just, at first, is an investment of time, right? We are building a skill and those things take time. But the more we do it and the more we create an environment where they know this is what you want me to do, this is how you want me to do it. That's what everybody wants, right? What do you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? The more we create that environment and those opportunities, the quicker and the more natural it becomes for them. And they don't have to wonder, what would my manager like me to do here? They know 3, 2, 1. So it, again, might sound simplistic, but I think we need some of that simplicity because critical thinking is such a huge box. There's so many aspects to it. So this is one approach that we can take among many.
Yeah, I love that. And I forgot to say this earlier. So we're using 2 words right now, critical thinking and problem solving. So one differentiator that's been really helpful for me is that they are distinct but related skills. And neither is a measure of intelligence. The intelligence is separate from these. So critical thinking, y'all, is the analysis piece, right? I can see something and I'm now doing the observation. Like Carrie said, I'm doing the 3 observations. That's my critical thinking at work. And then problem solving is the implementation. And so that's where we get to the 2 solutions plus, and the 1 decision. And so we're doing a balance of both. But a lot of times we just keep saying, well, people don't have critical thinking. They don't have critical thinking like it's some innate thing. And y'all can disagree with me, but I really believe that there's a skill here to develop. And so if you're struggling with how to develop critical thinking or you think that's really innate, that's why focusing on developing problem solving is going to be especially helpful. But I mean, I don't, everyone has their own like workout routine, right? But if we're talking about building a muscle, I will tell you the first time that I ever used one of those weight machines, right? I'm going up there and thank goodness they have a picture, that's like highlighting the muscles that you're going to use. I have no idea how this thing works. And it like shows you, it's like, okay, tricep pull down, like do this, right? The first time it's slower and I'm looking at it and I'm following the instructions. And the next time it gets better and better, but maybe I've been doing it wrong the whole time. I know that there's a personal trainer at our gym that sometimes will just kind of walk around like, hey, actually, this is going to be more effective if you just change your posture just a little bit and do it this way. So we know this in other contexts. And I think in the workplace where I don't know who we is. I keep saying we. It's like the manager and the employee. The employee maybe thinks that they're doing it right. And you as a manager, you've done this before and you can see it's not quite right. Right. How do you want to receive that constructive feedback? That's a whole nother conversation we can talk about, but usually those micro adjustments are going to help with the longer term behavior change. So I love, Carrie, what you were saying about the kind of the coaching and development piece of, okay, so what were your 3 observations? What were the 2 solutions? How did you get here? Because you're helping them with micro adjustments for the next time that they have to solve one of these problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I can ask you another question, Carrie, I know that you've taught this class before. And what is this class? It is a problem solving skill building class that we developed this year. What is maybe another strategy? I know you gave us one, but another that you share, a pain point or a strategy that came out of that class?
Yeah, one of the things that during the conversation we have during the workshop, which is my favorite part, because I actually get to hear from the people who are needing to work on all of this. And I get to hear real life scenarios and we get to break it down together in a workshop. I absolutely love it. Come away with so, so much. But one of the conversations that we have is about creating low risk opportunities and building a longer on ramp for our people to try out making those decisions, thinking critically through things and problem solving it. And too often our on ramp is really short. They're in the thick of things. We've given them a little too much, a little too soon, because sometimes we're desperate, yes. And that's when things tend to blow up. And so I like to identify opportunities that are very low risk so that they can take that on. They can practice their 3-2-1. We can debrief afterwards. And if it doesn't go as planned, there's not too much negative fallout from it. It's something we can easily recover from. And then during the debrief, we can talk about what didn't work, what does work. And I begin to train them to think like me, value some of the things that the company values as well as what the manager values, so that they begin to think along the same lines. And then I like to let them know, hey, this wasn't just a one and done. Let's learn from it. Let's make those adjustments, and you'll be given another opportunity. So that is creating that safe space. We'll call it a psychological safety zone where people feel safe to go ahead and make those decisions, move forward. And if it's not 100% win, we learn from it and we go on. But we can only do that if we give them small opportunities first and then build up to bigger and bigger things.
I like that. And, especially if you have someone that they were working and they just came from another environment, their last boss might have told them a completely opposite way of doing things than you did. So again, your people can't read your mind. I say again, because we talk about this all the time. But they truly might be someone with 15 years of experience, new hire that's coming to your team. And you're thinking, wait, I thought, but this person can hit the ground running, right? Because they've got 15 years of experience. They have 15 years of experience on another team or multiple other teams with other leaders. So it takes some warming up too. Don't just think new hires equal young hires that have no work experience. So the core of the class, one of the big things is to make sure that overall you're creating independent problem solvers, right? Because that's what all of you want. You just maybe as a teammate wish they had it on day one. We're saying it's going to take a little bit longer. And so one of the other strategies that we teach, let me get my screen shared here because I really like the visual. But one of these other strategies is a decision matrix. So y'all, I'm going to give you a really basic one, but you could make this as complex as you need to. I'm picturing right now, I know we have a lot of you on here that are in the greater senior care space or healthcare, right? Carrie just talked about low risk environments. When we think about how we care for other people, if you're in that care space, we don't want someone to have on like week one, a life impacting mistake that they make, right? Like that would be a very example of high risk. So how do we build up that skill? We might use a tool like 3-2-1 or even a decision matrix. So here's a basic outline that y'all can use. The first is, do you know what to do to solve this problem? Picture this like one of those personality quizzes, in those magazines, if any of you guys used to do that, or BuzzFeed, right? So do you know what to do to solve the problem? If someone says no, right, then they follow that little no over. Okay, so you don't know what to do. Do you know if there's a resource that can help you, right? Hopefully you in onboarding or your on ramp, right? You gave them access to a resource binder. There's a on-call list, or there's the intranet or SharePoint, whatever you guys use, right? And then maybe they say, no, I don't know if there's a resource. Okay. Ask a coworker for help, right? We're trying to help them solve this problem without coming to you as the manager first. Now you're going to take action. So coworker says to do this thing. Did that solve the problem? No. Okay, now you come ask the boss. This is a more sophisticated version of like ask 3 than me, which my sister uses in her 3rd grade math classroom. So some of this, it's the basics that we forget. Well, hey, what if this person knows how to solve the problem? Great, take action. Did that solve the problem? Or maybe they found a resource. And if it solved the problem, we're grand. But if not, we're training our folks to, okay, now go back and ask a coworker now. But the whole goal is that we solve the problem here. So y'all can take a screenshot if you want to and essentially plug in your own language in these boxes. This might be a very specific process, but just one tool that we actually have folks build a decision matrix in the class, which can be really helpful. So leave that up for one more moment for a screenshot. 3, 2, 1. Y'all can watch the recording after if you still need it. What am I missing, Carrie? Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Well, I have one just really quick strategy too.
Okay.
I don't want to dump too many on everyone.
Yeah.
There's something beautiful about three, right? So this will be
I
a
know.
third strategy to share today is really sometimes I think we get embedded and embroiled in something and it's just taking too long, it's taking too much space in our brain
Yeah.
and on our calendar. And so sometimes I will just say, let's set a timer, a literal timer, and what can we think of in the next 10 minutes? And just write all of those possibilities out. Now, this is not a in the moment type of thing, but maybe if we've got something bigger that's ongoing, what can we solve in 10 minutes? What can we come up with? And giving us that structured time can really manage to generate some ideas that for some reason if we had all the time in the world we wouldn't have thought of those. And that's one of the things that we get to do in our workshop is I give them those 10 minutes to problem solve a real life scenario that they keep bumping up against over and over again, and they literally walk away that day with a plethora of problem solving solutions
Mm.
potentially. But sometimes just setting that quick timer and saying, what can we come up with in 10 minutes? And there's just something beautiful about that.
Yeah, I love that. I really see you as a leader being like that coach, which is my preferred type of leader, right? Someone that doesn't say, "Okay, go do it and let me know what you run into," but like I'm actually here to help you along the way because we do want our folks to come to us when they are up against a high risk situation that they need our help. We don't want to be so inaccessible that now they're doing something that actually could lead to a really big issue, right? I'm just going to look back at the chat here. Some people were talking. I only heard one person say that they were a latchkey kid. Oh, maybe Tim meant this too. He said, we didn't use a key, but we didn't lock the house either, right? So of course, we're giving the general piece, and all of us were raised a bit different, but be home by 6. Um, and yeah, sometimes, and maybe right now this is it for your organization, we're just like still hiring a warm body rather than hiring someone with that talent. Um, One thing that came up a couple weeks ago in a workshop I was teaching that doesn't feel completely tied to this, but can be helpful. Y'all, if you are in a space or an organization that doesn't pay above market value, so this is for my comp nerds here, right? So you guys, you pay good, but not great. We have this disconnect because when our pay or our benefits are not like way above the competition, sometimes our expectations for hiring is that we hire like these A plus A players, but it's like a kind of it's kind of like a purple unicorn if you can find an A player who's willing to take a lot less money than maybe a competitor would give them. Sorry, all my thoughts are all over the place. So here's the thing. You might be paying the amount of money or providing benefits for a B or C level player. And so I want y'all to get your expectations in the right place that this might be someone that does need more coaching until they're ready for that varsity team, right? But our B and C players have just as much potential as our A players to become better. And so I want you to think of your role as a leader or even as a teammate who leads up or leads out, that you actually have the ability to develop people into this magic dream team that you have. But thinking that it's going to happen immediately, it's just going to cause us to keep doing this finger pointing of HR didn't hire the right people and that manager sucks and that executive this. And great, we can spend our time doing that all day long. But I don't know about you. I like to have a good day at work and not a day where I'm complaining all day. I want to come home and feel like, wow, I'm making progress with this employee on our team, things like that. So, um, y'all, I am going to pass it back over to Jess. And I know I'm going to steal her thunder on this one, but if you guys have more questions or you have a strategy that we only shared a couple that you're like, I want everyone here to know this strategy that works with my team, please put those in the chat and Q&A box for us because we'd love to share even more insights.
Wow, so much to think about. That was awesome. As we wrap up today, like Alayna said, make sure you use that Q&A box. I do have one question, but I did want to just mention a couple things before I get to that question.
Great.
Um, Our next webinar, guys, is November the 14th, always at noon Eastern. This is a webinar where Kara Saletto, our founder and CEO, is going to be joined by one of our senior living partners, Heather Johnson. Heather leads the state-funded onboarding and retention specialist program in Minnesota and has improved, you won't believe this, improved nursing turnover by 35%. We don't have a link for that webinar quite yet, but make sure you visit our magnetculture.com/webinar page and you'll get emailed about that particular one too. It's going to be a really powerful story of how Heather was able to accomplish all of that. I did want to mention, in conjunction with this problem solving class, we actually have a series um, that some of our partners have taken advantage of. It is a micro learning video series called Hit the Mark. And the Hit the Mark program was created because we had a client come to us and say, look, our managers, they don't know how to have difficult conversations with their front line. And so this in particular, these little micro learning videos, they're like 2 to 3-ish minutes a piece. There's about 26 of them. And the whole goal was that we created this series so that you can use them in an already existing meeting, in a huddle. You can use them on one-on-ones. For example, I'm having a staff member who's got a big challenge with being punctual. So let's have a conversation around it, right? And so instead of just this back and forth, we have a video that talks about punctuality, and then it just opens up that conversation with those individuals. Loving these topics. Who defines professionalism today? Watch your mouth, know your audience and how to communicate more effectively. Think before you speak. Thumbs up using emoji. So there's just all these little videos that our clients really love to use when it comes to having those difficult conversations, which therefore leads to opportunities to solve problems, right? So typically this series runs for 18 months worth of a licensing, and we are going to be doing 18 months for just $1,200. 1,200. That's it. So you get all 26 videos. You can use them as many times as you'd like and pour those out to your management, to your front line, to your staff. Comes in a little PDF, so it's easy to click. You can click on those videos on a cell phone or on a computer. But we hope you'll take advantage of that. And if you are interested in receiving the flyer in your inbox, just to take a look at the topics, type in the word offer, either direct message me or put it in the chat, and I'll contact you afterwards and send that email out. So, in addition, Carrie and Alayna, as a sidebar, are fantastic facilitators, and these guys work their tail off on giving the support that our clients need in order to be successful. If you want to hear more about what that might look like for your team, like, hey, I think I want Carrie or Alayna to come out and actually teach this problem solving class to my group of leaders. We do it all the time. We have both virtual and in-person opportunities for that. But I'll drop my meeting link here in the chat. You guys can schedule some time with me. I can tell you a little bit more about what that might look like for your team. I do have one quick question. This could be for both Carrie or Alayna, but thanks for writing this in, Jennifer. With the three observation, two solution, and the one decision formula for training, is this an effective one-on-one type of solution, or is this better as a group? What do you guys think?
Do you mind if I jump in, Alayna?
Please go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's both. So if I really like to coach my people to use it for them singularly, it's that one person making those observations, coming up with the solutions, and then moving forward with the decision. Because we know if we've got a group of people trying to problem solve that together, unless they are always on the same page, maybe even besties, it could lead to some additional problems rather than solutions. So if it's, I'm trying to coach one person to individually think that way in that given scenario, and then as a group, that's when I would bring a group together to say, what is a problem that we keep encountering over and over again, so that we can group think that together when it's not mission critical, when it's not in the moment, but it's flexing that muscle and getting us used to it. It also helps us learn how other people think. And we can learn from them, and then we can go, oh, I would have never thought of it that way. So I do both. And I want to coach the individual to think that way in the moment, and then use it as a training tool ahead of time with a group of people, so that it just becomes a muscle memory.
That feels like a really good skill too, for those of you who are leading leaders, like to give them that formula of, hey, as you are starting to work with your team, or they say, let me do another example, right? So I come to Carrie and I'm like, I am struggling so much with Jess. Like, Jess, oh, I'm losing my patience. Jess can't solve any of these problems. Like, how many of you are in that boat? You know, and then now Carrie can say, Alayna, I hear you. I've been in this position before, but I really believe that Jess has what it takes, and Jess has like the best in mind, but we just need to give her some more tools, right? So next time you talk to Jess, do this 3-2-1 thing. And I think it's a great way to even cascade that through other leaders. We don't have
Great
to
suggestion.
complicate this. I think that's like my most important. I I think what we try to do, one of our secrets here is to, it's why have things shifted, so better understanding folks, but then let's take this thing that feels so complex and like we just can't tackle it and make it simpler. And if the simple things don't work, great, then we're going to move on to the next level strategy. But I bet you, because we have seen this over the last 13 years, these simple things do work. It's just that we forget about them. And so that's what we're here to help you with.
Bingo. That's it. Thank you guys so much. Great answer. I love it. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Happy Friday to everybody. We hope to see you in November at our next webinar. Thanks so much, Carrie and Alayna.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
you
Jeff.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.